Welcome to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast, Small Bites edition. I'm your co-host, Kate Balzer.
And I'm Charles Swint. So our small bites episodes are discussions we had in the main episode that didn't quite fit the overall conversation, but we still wanted to share with you all.
We hope you enjoy these tasty conversational bites. We promise, no angry puppy scars from listening.
What would they be like as parents? Like what would the Scoobies or other people in the Buffyverse be like as parents?
So what to expect when the Scoobies are expecting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about.
So when we look at Angel, like since we've opened it up to the Buffyverse,
the greater verse. So FYI, spoilers potentially for Angel.
Right.
Or definitely for Angel.
Yes.
Yeah, because Angel is within canon, Angel is our only parent of the next gen of the main characters, not the parental figures from Buffy.
Right. Aside from all of the demon spawn that Cordelia.
That's right.
Cordelia's the only one who's given birth twice. Like, who's actually given birth to anybody, both by mystical means.
Yeah, I think Angel's situation is really interesting because I actually think it's one of the times he does well.
It's my favorite version of Angel,
Me
quite
too.
frankly.
Oh my God, when I was thinking about this, when I really think about it, I really do love what he does in that version of Angel. Like, he might actually be one of the few decent parents in the Buffyverse.
No, I think he's a good parent. I mean, he's super protective. I mean, he's kind of overly protective, really, but but he is a really good parent. And quite frankly, he and Darla are really good parents.
Yes.
I mean, and here's the thing. No joke. So this is what I was talking about before we started recording, was I was just on TikTok, scrolling through stuff as we were getting set up. And friend of the pod, Ian, and Slayer Fest, they were just posted something on the Darla arc. And they were talking about her pregnancy and all of that stuff and going through it all and what they would have liked to have seen. And honestly, I kind of wish that we didn't have to get rid of Darla in order to get Connor, because I would have loved to have seen some co-parenting situations between Angel and Darla. Like, what a fun time that would have been to see their different parenting styles. I would totally be into that. I would have watched that show.
I think that would have been amazing. I would have 100% loved it.
So much better than what we got. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but Angel is he's loving, he's protective. I mean, yeah, sometimes he's overprotective, but you can understand it. They live in a very crazy world. But then when Connor is taken and comes back a teenager and is his moody ass self because Holtz has been a horrible person to him, horrible parental figure.
Well,
and so when he buries Angel in the water and then Wesley rescues him, the way he handles that is so perfect, because he's authoritative, but he's not authoritarian, and he still shows that he loves Connor, but he just can't see him right now. And it was just, that is probably one of my all-time favorite scenes in Angel.
Well, and he wants to be different from his father.
Angel's
like, he's constantly trying not to be the kind of father that his father is.
Right.
He also understands that his son grew up in a hell dimension, and had to deal with stuff that he didn't have to deal with. And also understands that Connor needs time to sort of acclimate to all of these things. Like, his life got changed so quickly, and none of it was Connor's fault, and how he was raised was not his fault. And so he's constantly just trying to show up to be like, the only way that I can show you how much I love you and the type of man I am is by just showing up every day. And that's what, despite Connor's, tantrums and, the crazy and shitty ways that he shows up, Angela's always like, but I'm just gonna kind of keep showing up as the man that I want you to know me as.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the best version of Angel.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting that that is the direction that the character in the storyline go, that it ends up being one of the best parental
Yeah,
stories in the Buffyverse. And then, oh, so as far as the hypothetical, I think in some ways I don't ever think of any of them becoming parents because
right.
they live in such a heightened world. And I guess that's part of it. Their world does slightly change. It's not the same as it was in Sunnydale and,
Hmm.
with the magic leaving and then having to be brought back. So it's not quite like the daily life and death situation that
Right.
they experienced in Sunnydale. But it always just seemed to me like a lot of that would have to change for them to become parents because it seems like a scary prospect when you're
Hmm.
basically constantly in a war to have children.
Right.
But of course, in real life, people do it, but they might not necessarily be on the front lines like they are.
Hmm.
You may be in living in a wartime situation or a civil conflict situation, but it
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean you're on the front lines.
Fighting every day. Yeah, to like,
Correct.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, God, it's so hard. I go back and forth on Buffy. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing Buffy wanting to be a parent.
Yeah. I,
Because she's
I,
had to take on so many burdens early on that I could see her being, like the best aunt to like all her friends' kids, Dawn's kids,
yeah.
that sort of
I
thing.
mean, she basically does become Dawn's mother. I
Right.
mean, and she does a fairly decent job of that. Again, being that she's, at that point being what,
122.
21, 22 or whatever, like she's doing the best that she can at that
Hmm.
point. Um,
She does a better job when she gets healthier at the start of season 7.
yeah.
I feel like you get to see her at her best in that role before
Hmm.
everything once again starts to spiral out of control.
Right, right. Um,
But I don't expect her to be a parent like I would somebody of Joyce's age who has time and you raise the kid
right,
again. So, I think Buffy for being an older sister thrown into a parental role really does like the best she can. Does she make a lot of mistakes? Yeah, but her life is also like insane to a level that in our reality would not maybe exist.
right. You know who I want to see as a parent?
Yeah, who?
Anya.
Well, that would be interesting.
I totally want to see what Anya looks like as a parent. I don't know what it would be like. I mean, I think she would be a very neurotic parent,
Oh, 100%. I was just thinking that.
but also very neurotic, but also very pragmatic when it
Hmm.
comes to like neurotic about the baby, but pragmatic about everything else that happens.
Hmm.
And the like and how she like handles the baby. Like she would totally be I feel like Anya would totally be like the PTA mom.
Yes.
Like she would be like that Uber, she's like the influencer mom who's like, this is how you make your own thing, and this is how you like, she's doing all the like breastfeeding. She's like that mom. Like
Yeah.
she's like hyper organized, but like really into her kid, but super neurotic about her kid. And, but she's like head of the PTA. Doing carpool, doing dioramas, all of those things.
The overly involved parent.
She's the helicopter mom. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I do see that. I can see why you see that. I don't know because Anya's thing is always about how she doesn't understand modern day culture and society. But I guess I could see her being that way if she like set herself up to study what the ideal parent should be in modern US society. And so that would be like the outcome. I could definitely see that.
yeah, like I feel like the way that she like took to being a business owner and
Right.
understanding what business was like, she was like, she studied it. And so she was like, oh, so this is what it means to be a mom.
Hmm.
Like, here's what it means to be a mom with a capital M. And
Hmm.
I'm going to be that thing. I could see her like diving deep on TikTok and then just like losing herself and just being that like obsessive mom and
Yeah.
trying to be like that perfect mom all
Yeah.
the time and driving herself crazy and basically like and her kid being her own like sort of sense of vengeance where she's just like
I
driving
could see her
herself
turning
crazy.
like her daughter into a mini her, and she'd be like dressing and like in business attire and like knowing business stuff at like 9 years old or something.
Anya's kid would be, I think Anya's kid would kind of be awesome though.
It would be amazing to see. I feel like with Xander, it's crazy to me they made him a dad in the comics. I feel like if Xander's going to be a dad, he needs to be an older dad who's been through therapy and like has had some grown-up experience for a while before he becomes
Now
a
I feel,
dad.
now I feel like I need to find those comics so that I can read.
Yeah, I have no idea how things went in season 12 because like I said, I read the first episode or the first edition and I was like not happy with where the start started off. I don't even think I finished it. And then I read like literally the last page of the last one because I wanted to see how it ended. And I also didn't like how it ended.
I like,
So
I
I
don't
was
like
like, I'm not gonna
any
read
of
the
those.
rest. So I'm only to me 10 and 11. That's it. Those are the only seasons I like. So yeah, so I have no idea like what trials and tribulations, if any. I'm sure they do. Dawn
Right.
and Xander go through as parents. But aside from whatever happens in the comics, like if I'm just imagining how I see Xander, that's how I could see Xander being a parent.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, other than Tara, I could see Oz wanting to be a parent.
Yeah, I could see Oz being a fairly cool parent. Like, I feel like Oz would be the kind of parent. I mean, I feel like Oz as a teenager is probably the same as Oz as an adult,
Yes.
and probably is a very level-headed, rational parent.
Especially as time goes on, he gets more centered with his wolfness. The only reason I could see him not wanting to be a parent is not to pass along
Right.
being a
Is that a
werewolf.
genetic thing? Is that a thing that he would pass on to his kid?
Good question. I don't know. I don't think that's answered
Mm,
in the
mm.
series. Um, I don't know if it can only be passed through a bite, but yeah, it's a good
I'm
question.
sure he would be concerned about it though, for sure. Like,
Yeah, unless maybe he's like part of some clan or something where everyone is like a wolf, and
yeah,
so, it's the thing to do. But yeah, he'd be like, I could see him being like a super cool dad.
he's a cool dad.
Yeah. He's the dad, like, if he had a daughter, the daughter's friends would like crush on him.
Yeah, that's the guy that he's the dad that everyone wants to hang out with.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah, for sure.
But he's also the dad where, like, when you reach a certain point, you don't want to F with him because he can be scary.
Right. Well, because then he wolfs out and then he
Right,
just goes crazy.
exactly.
He's like, I will tear you a new one, literally.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, what
if I
about
have to.
Spike? Obviously
Oh,
postal.
Spike would be a good dad. I think Spike would be a good dad.
I mean, he's
Uh,
definitely a caretaker, and we saw him have
yeah.
like really nice relationship for a period of time with Dawn
Yeah.
before it fell apart.
The way that he takes, I mean, right, well, because, when you try to, rape your sister, that's kind of ruins a relationship. But I think when you like the way that he cares for Dawn, I think
Yeah.
is a telltale sign. And honestly, and here's the thing, quite frankly, the way like his relationship with Andrew too is
Yeah.
another thing because Andrew is so like to Spike, Andrew is so annoying. And like that, like even the moment about the blooming onion, like there's a moment of vulnerability there that
Yeah.
leads me to believe that if given the opportunity, if he had to, and and if you look at, you look at Slayerverse, and again,
Yes,
spoilers, when we're stepping outside of, the Buffy, but we're in the Slayerverse here with the audio series, like his relationship with Clem and the audio series is very much like, he has to be the caregiver and the one who protects everyone and with Adira coming in and all of that stuff.
yeah.
All of that stuff where he's like a reluctant dad. He doesn't want to be a dad, but when he has to be a dad, he will be a really awesome one. He will protect. He won't
Yeah.
always get it right, but he'll try really hard.
Yeah. Well, and just think about it. He was the one given the role to rescue the baby in not fade away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think he's got that. He's got some dad vibes there for
Yeah.
sure. And I could see him wanting to be a dad. I mean, if he obviously wasn't a vampire
Right. Daddy Spike. Um,
or if he shanshoes. But I feel like Wesley wouldn't want to be a dad. I think he'd be too afraid of being like his father.
yeah. I think he would try really hard.
Yeah, I mean, if he'd had a chance to actually have like a legitimate relationship with Fred and Fred wanted to, I could see it, but I think
Yeah.
he'd be very hesitant.
I think he's got so much baggage with his dad that he never
Yeah.
resolved that I think it would be hard for him.
hmm we've also well, sort of in our conversation, it's been implied that you know, becoming a parent through having biological children. The one way I could see Buffy being a parent is through adoption, through like kids that come into her life via her work. Like maybe another Slayer has a kid and then gets killed, so she feels like, and there's no other family. I could see
Right.
Buffy being like stepping in to, adopt the kid, or one of her, friends, if like Willow had a kid and Willow dies, she would take that role on. Like
Sure.
that is if Buffy was ever going to be a parent, that's the more likely way in my head that I could see her becoming a parent.
Yeah, she's definitely, I don't think she's like intentionally trying to get pregnant to have a
Yeah,
kid.
agreed. What about Willow? I don't think we talked about Willow.
I don't know. I think she would be a serviceable parent. Like, I think she would be I don't think she would be a bad parent.
hmm
I just don't see her. Although, I mean, having a kid changes you. So like that's the
Yeah.
other thing too. Like because then you have to think about somebody other than yourself. And I do
hmm
think that I mean, and I love Willow so much, but Willow is kind of a self-centered character.
hmm
And like a lot of the stuff is like focused on her and her inner journey and what's going on with her all the time.
hmm
And
Yeah.
so, it might be good for her to have a kid to be like, oh, to take her out of that. But I don't necessarily, also, I don't necessarily see her having one because of like the level of power that she has, and also sort of the level of responsibility that I think she feels that she has to carry with that power. Um, I feel like she might think that like the world is her, like the being sort of a guardian of magic
hmm
is the higher calling for her than
Yes.
a child.
What I was gonna say, that's kind of one of the avenues they explore in the comic, where she is this very like she ends up like on these higher planes and meeting with these like other higher plane beings, and learns about the universe and meditative and kind of
Right.
very goddessy path that she takes initially. So I agree. I see her being, you know, having bigger things to do. Not that there's anything small about being a parent, but it's just a different kind of big
Right.
than what Willow's doing.
And so I think if she did have a child, it would end up being like more of a mythical sort of situation where she
Mhm.
has a child and she is like the goddess,
Yeah,
and that child is like a demigod, but someone else is taking care of this child, and she's not raising this child because she can't be there.
right.
I think Willow turns into her mother.
Mm, yeah, I could see that.
I think Willow turns into her mother. As much as she may not want to, I feel like that's where Willow goes.
hmm
Because there are things that are like, because in the grand scheme of the universe, there are things way, way, while you are the most precious thing, the thing that you live in, I am sort of sated to protect. Like I have to protect the universe. I have to keep
Right.
these things in checks and balances, and that's the mission. Again, very much like Nikki, being like,
Yeah.
I've got this kid, but like, dude, the mission comes first. And so I feel like she would get like her child would be neglected,
Yeah.
based on that. I think Buffy would do the same thing too, but I think Buffy would train that child to fight in the fight with. her if she had to, like if there was a child, she would be like, I'm going to teach you how to fight because you need to be a warrior in this world and fight in this world because that's what we have to do, whether you're a slayer or not. Where I think Willow would not be around enough to teach that lesson because she's too busy astral projecting everywhere and
Yeah.
doing taking care of all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What about Faith?
Oh, Faith would never want a child ever.
So I agree. I agree on the surface, but I also could see like down the road because she's also like the only one who's had some therapy because she got it in prison, like having more therapy and down the road, like surprising everyone and becoming like a great mom.
I mean, maybe. I mean, like ultimately, like Faith wanted out of all of it.
Yeah.
Faith just wanted to be done with everything. She didn't want to be a part, like she didn't want to be a Slayer. She didn't want to, at least in like seasons 8 and 9, like that's where she was. As far as I got in the comics, like,
Yeah.
she had to do one last job before before they were like, now that there are all these Slayers, you don't have to be in the fight anymore. Just do this
Hmm.
one last job. But Giles was like, this one thing, and then you can be done. But I think even in that, I don't think Faith would want. I think Faith would be so like, I don't want to bring a child into this world is messed up, and I do not want to bring a child into this world.
I just think you could also be surprised by her. I could see that.
Yeah, I think there's surprises all around,
Yeah,
really.
I mean, you could say that about anyone. I mean, somebody
Yeah,
could get accidentally pregnant and who never planned to have kids and decide to keep the baby. I mean, it's all what if, but
right.
yeah, and I mean, it's also hard to judge because they're all like 21, 22
Sure,
when
yeah.
when this series ends. On that uh topic, going back to our main episode conversation, I do think, and this may have happened in the season 12 comics with Dawn and Xander's daughter, but I do think because of their found family, that if any of them had children, it would be a very communal raising,
Sure. Yeah.
which I think changes the situation. They're not trapped in that nuclear family that doesn't live near family, doesn't really maybe
Hmm.
have other forms of support. I mean, obviously in the US, we struggle with that because we also don't have governmental support to replace family and friends support that you may have in other cultures. So I could see that, you know,
And I think you're right though. But it's also a very like Western European like cultural thing, and American sort of thing of like this nuclear family where other cultures are very much like, oh, okay, the family raises the child. So
hmm
aunts,
hmm
uncles, like tias and like tios
yeah,
and tias are like there on the thing. Grandma is there in it, like raising the kid too. So it's not just like it is a village, it is like the family raising the
hmm
child. And it's that mentality that I think changes things, where it's
yes,
not like, this is my kid, I'm gonna do how I want it, and blah,
correct.
um, and you don't get that, and you don't necessarily always have those like close bonds of, your aunts and uncles and all of that stuff in your life
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. I feel like that sense of, and maybe we just didn't see it because we were kids, but I feel like that sense of, oh, this is my kid, I'm gonna raise them, like, don't interfere, has been a much more in the last like couple of decades. I
Hmm.
never felt that like sense that parents were that way. I mean, as we
Well,
talked about, we're tail end of like the latchkey kids. So my personal hypothesis about why that may have changed in society isn't related to any specific parent or parenting style. I think it's the fact of, and this is what you just talked about, we actually were experiencing this, is I feel like people have become much more transient. And so we don't have those communal connections
yeah.
because people move so much more often than maybe, in decades past. So I think that changes something because you're not expecting to have those family members in your life
Hmm.
to step into those supportive roles. because you're not living near them. Maybe you don't even have them to begin with. And then, like I said, I think in Western Europe, you have the government stepping in with childcare and parental leave and paid parental leave and that those sort of supports that we don't have in the United States. So you're lacking on both accounts. So to summarize, who'd have thunk Angel be a great parent?
Angel, great dad. Absolutely. Angel, great dad. I want to see the spinoff of Angel and Darla like raising a kid
Yeah, co-parenting,
together,
but not
co-parenting,
together.
but not together, completely not together. Different houses,
Yep.
both doing their own things, but like it's the teen show with them like raising Connor
Right.
in a different house.
Making sure he does not sleep with possessed Cordelia.
Storyline ever. Worst storyline ever. I'm so mad about it.
Oh.
I like actively get like my body has a visceral reaction to that storyline every
Okay.
time.
I do like the idea of a lot of the Scoobies and their extended family having kids and then raising them collectively. Because it, again, that helps to like continue that breaking of the heteronormative idea of family
Hmm.
and, stand up to the patriarchy.
Yeah. I
So I
mean
do like that idea.
their family gatherings would be fun to
Yeah,
see,
totally.
you know,
They'd make Uncle Xander do the Scooby dance.
like like Uncle Xander coming in and then like, like Angel and Connor coming in, for
Singing
Thanksgiving or
Mandy
whatever.
at karaoke.
Um, you know, Dawn and Xander with their kid, Angel with Connor.
On
Um,
Buffy would be giving all of them sweet treats behind their parents' back,
Giles just,
kind of being like mystified by the chaos.
by all of it just being so like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Why did you all do this? Like,
Andrew trying to capture it all on video and trying to get
yes.
people to take a group
Uncle
photo.
Uncle Andrew just like there taking photos, documenting everything.
Yeah,
He organized the entire thing.
100%.
Here's the thing. No one wanted to do it. Like no one wanted to have a family reunion. Andrew like tricked everyone into coming together to have a family do it.
Oh, I like this whole picture.
Yeah, like no one wanted it. They're all kind of like they're all a little mad at each other, or they've just been very distant. And like this is Andrew's like holiday gift to them. Like they like Andrew concocted a scheme to like get everybody together for a family reunion.
Also, Aunt Faith would be out back smoking, and she'd allow the kids, if they asked, a puff or two on her cigarette.
Her and Spike are out back,
Yeah.
just like
And
F
then
them
they'd laugh at
kids.
the kids
They're
because
like
they'd start
F them
choking and
kids.
well, they'd laugh at the kids for choking on their first puff of a cigarette and be like, "This is why you shouldn't smoke.
Yeah,
Listen to what I say, not what I do."
they're definitely outside trying to get away from the chaos.
Okay, people, if you're listening and you're a writer, please write us this fanfic because
I
we would
want
totally,
it.
totally want it.
So let us know who in the Buffyverse would you like to
Yeah.
see as a parent? Uh,
Who could you see as a
who could you
parent?
see as a parent? Who would you co-parent with? Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Bites. Let us know your thoughts about the episode by leaving a review or rating us wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Buffy Podcast and email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.